It's another edition of the Wrap-Up Show with John Schaefer and Jim Russell. And as a reminder, subscribe to our content. The reason to subscribe and hit that button down below, year-round Padres content. Hit the notification bell, like our videos, and follow us on Twitter at John Schaefer, at Jim Russell SD. Is it a make or break year for AJ Preller? Let's hear from the the owner of the Padres with our very own Marty Caswell. If you want this entire interview, it's down in the description down below. Is it a make or break year? Here's Peter Seidler.
Is this a must year? Is this a must win year for AJ Preller? You're going into what I think season number 8, and there's been 0 winning seasons in a full under a full 162.
No, it's not a must win year. I mean, things happen in this game. I'm, as confident in AJ as I could possibly be. His set of skills for this job to me are exceptional, and that is really an unshakable belief that I have in AJ. We asked him several years ago to take a step back and start to build kind of from scratch an organization. When we whatever it was now 4 or 5 years ago when we signed all the minor league teenagers. And I look at where we are right now. I look at where we are now, and we have a very strong farm system, player development, scouting. It can always get better, and we aspire to make it better. And I think, the missing piece right now, obviously, is we don't have a manager and a full complement of coaches. I believe if we get that right, we will continue to be a force for years to come. And I'm as solid with AJ as I could be. I believe in him. I trust him. I love the fact that he's unafraid to be bold from time to time. And some of those bold moves have worked out for us fantastically. Some of them with perfect hindsight. Maybe the other team got the better end of a trade or what have you. That's going to happen. But I think we have a great group of core players, and I expect that they'll be back, and we'll supplement that core group, and we'll show up next year, and we'll credibly be in the conversation to bring the World Series championship to San Diego. That's what it's all about, and AJ is the person that's going to do it.
What do you think, Jim? Not a make or break year, but also he thinks 2022 could be the year that a World Series is ultimately brought to San Diego. A lot of work from where they are to get there, right?
Yeah, it's concerning when you hear that from him, to be honest. You can read quotes all you want, but to hear it actually said from Peter Seidler, you're like, really? I mean, next year isn't a make or break season for AJ Preller, who has not had a winning season in a full 162 game year since he's been here, since 2015. Really? It's concerning to hear that. And his unwavering faith in AJ, it could hurt this team more than help it, because at what point is enough? You're willing to give AJ one more year. I'm on the side of, I thought that if you get rid of Tingler this year, you had to get rid of Preller as well. He's been given too many chances, and to give him another chance to hire another manager, that's too many chances for one guy to have. But if truly next year, no matter what happens, isn't a make or break season for Preller, I just don't understand that logic at all from Peter Seidler. And when he says that he's exceptional at his job, exceptional at what? Yeah, he has a great eye for talent. He is a scout at heart. But that's not, the job of the GM is to put a winning ball club on the field and to go to postseasons and to win division titles, to compete for World Series. He hasn't done any of that, not even close. So, what is he exceptional at? The job of the GM, he's not exceptional at. If anything, he's grossly underperformed as a general manager.
Well, my question would be this, Jim. If it's not a make or break year, what year is? It's 2023. Right. As in all these people, I mean, managers, general managers, they all come and go, right? There's usually a point in time where an organization makes a decision on every manager. That happens whether you're a World Series caliber manager or not, World Series caliber general manager or not. Very few have the 30-year shelf life of a Brian Cashman.
Right.
So if the 8th season is a losing season, to Marty's point, then is the 9th season of 2023 going to be that make or break point? And what's the methodology? If it's not wins and losses, what really is it going to be about? Because it's hard to be on both sides. Listen, I've been very defensive of Peter Seidler. I think he's done a very good job in terms of allowing Preller to spend and opening up these pocketbooks and spending like basically no other team in baseball in one of the quote unquote smaller markets in the sport. But if you say it's not make or break, but you also say, we think we can win a World Series in 2022, it's hard to play both sides of that because 79-83 looks nothing like winning a World Series. So I'm with you. I'm comfortable with 2022 to Preller. I'm not 100% comfortable, far from it. But considering the circumstances, I'm comfortable with 2022, but nothing else. If this looks anything like 2021, a change is not just expected, a change is necessary because you're 8 years in, 7 of which will be losing seasons, 1 postseason spot, and you're just looking up for a decade straight at the Dodgers and the Giants, and you're spending like this. At some point, you're going to have to put a winning product on the field, and the some point is now. If the decade of the 2020s is the Padres, we're in it. We're in it.
Right. And I keep going back to like, if they don't win next season, I don't think next year will be like this year, but who knows? It could be. And they could miss the playoffs easily next season and still win 84, 85 games. Like, what is enough, or when is it going to be enough to say, you know what, AJ, you're not getting it done. We're not winning. We're not going to postseasons. We're not competing for NL West championships. We're not competing for World Series. Well, then what is it going to take? I mean, this guy's already been suspended in 2016, right? That wasn't a fireable offense. If anything, he got another contract extension after that. If it's not having any winning seasons under his belt in the 8 years he's been here for a full 162 game season, okay. If it's not that, then what is it? Like, what is it going to take for AJ, for Peter to be like, enough's enough? And if it's okay, well, he brought in Tatis and he has Machado, and those two guys have the top 2 jersey sales. They're in the top 20 of jersey sales in all of baseball. We're making a bunch of money at the gate. We're selling out games. Like, we're selling a bunch of swag chains. Like, that's not, people don't care about that. I mean, some people might. I don't care about that. I care about winning. Like, the Giants have nobody in the top 20 as far as jersey sale goes, and they won 107 games this year. Do you think the ownership group cares about jersey sales or if they sell out ballparks? Like, no, it's about wins and losses. And if this ownership group, if Peter Seidler can start focusing, and I know he does, but I'm talking about like 100% focus, no matter what. That's the only thing that matters with this franchise is wins and losses. Then he's going to be better off. But it seems like he cares about other things more, maybe, than the product on the field. And that's disappointing. And it's hearing that, like, that's very concerning to me that he is saying those things about AJ Preller when I can easily go to 4 or 5 things off the top of my head that any other GM in baseball would have been fired for already.
Right. I mean, this wasn't going to last. You weren't going to get an 8th season in Philadelphia. You weren't getting it in New York, either of the teams. You weren't getting it in Boston. We understand that. You weren't getting it in LA. No chance. And you weren't getting it with the Angels. I mean, it wasn't going to happen. For whatever reason, he is getting it here. And now the question becomes, will he be able to secure the right manager? It is as simple as that. He's back for 2022. We can argue about whether the fact that 2022 really is or isn't a make or break year for AJ Preller. He has to find the right voice. And I don't, we can talk about whether it's, 24-year-old or a 64-year-old or a 34-year-old or someone. He's got to find the right voice. I think the right voice has to be someone with immediate credibility. I don't think he had that in Andy Green or Jace Tingler. I'm not saying he has to hire a guy that's been to the World Series 4 times and won it 3 times in Bruce Bochy, but you got to find someone with credibility. And if it's not Bochy, if it's not Washington, it's got to be someone that immediately commands the respect of that clubhouse, because you heard Peter Seidler also say he expects the core to be back. Now, we could also argue over who's really in the core. Is an Eric Hosmer or a Will Myers in the core or not? And if they are, that's another conversation. But if the core is going to be back, the manager has to get the respect of that group immediately. And this hire is, I mean, it's just massive, because if you get this wrong, it's not just the wrong manager. Now you have the wrong general manager. You're sending the organization back another year at least, if not two. They have to get this right.
And if you go back and listen to the whole interview, go to sportssd.com. Marty did a great job. And when she asked him about another first-time manager, there was no pushback as far as like, no, we're going the experience route. It was, to me, almost like bracing the fan base. Well, you know what? We could go a first-time manager route again. And if they go a first-time manager route again, that will be, in my opinion, the worst mistake that this franchise can do again. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it was the greatest baseball player ever to play the game, like to be a manager. No, this team needs experience. This team needs a guy in that chair that demands respect. And if you're going to go a first-time route, which I would brace the fan base, like be ready, like don't just dismiss that this team could once again hire a first-time manager, because AJ Preller is who he is. That's his DNA. It's hard to change someone fundamentally from who they are. And AJ Preller, who he is a guy that hires first-time managers and yes men. That's what he does. He doesn't have any track record of hiring guys with a running experience, running track record in baseball. He just doesn't do it. So if they go out and they hire another first-time manager, I don't care if he was a former player. I don't care if he made 17 All-Star games. Like, this team needs experience in that chair. And it could work out if you hire a first-time manager, but we said that exact same thing about Andy Green. We said the exact same thing about Jace Tingler. And this team can't continuously go out on limbs and go with risky hires. They need someone in that chair that is going to demand the respect of Machado and Tatis and Hosmer if he's still around. Hopefully he's not. But if he is, you need to have that respect from the manager's chair, from those players. The whole interview with Marty was great, but listening to it, you're just like, oh my, really? Like, you really think this?
I'm not as opposed to the first-time manager if it's the former player with experience, because I've seen that work across baseball, and I think that that's where baseball is heading because of
in the first year, though.
In the sport,
in the first year, though.
I mean, you're saying first year ever. I mean, we've seen guys we've seen guys have success. We'd have to look up, the examples. There are guys that have had success. Now, the difference being between Andy Green and Jace Tingler, someone with a 15-year career. So that's the credibility, a good clubhouse guy. So you go from a clubhouse back into a clubhouse as a manager. I think that can work. My preference would be your preference. I'd rather go with a former manager. I would go former manager than a player with a boatload of experience. And those are the only two options. By the way, if you think it's going to be Bruce Bochy, AJ Cassaville just tweeting this. Dave Roberts, close with Bochy, just asked if he thought Bochy might manage somewhere next season. If it's the right situation for Boch, he'll consider it. Do I think he will? My guess is no. Is that an indictment on the Padres?
Yes.
Because he says if it's the right situation, he'd consider it, and his guess is no. So is San Diego not the right situation for Bochy, as we speculated for parts of the last month?
If I'm Bochy and I'm watching what's happening in San Diego and I'm reading the reports and I look at that clubhouse, I ain't touching it. I'm not touching it unless I get like a $10 million a year contract or something crazy like that. I'm just not touching it. He's come from two clubhouses, one with Tony Gwynn and Trevor Hoffman, two Hall of Famers, to another with Buster Posey and Brandon Belt and Brandon Crawford and Matt Cain. Like, and you're going to go into another clubhouse, and that clubhouse consists of Eric Hosmer, and I mean, Machado's had his issues, and Tatis is a 22-year-old. Like, there's nobody in that clubhouse that's like a staple like a Tony Gwynn or a Hoffman or a Posey or a Belt that Bochy has managed. Who
I mean,
who
come
is it?
on. Like, we got to be fair. Tatis will be 23 next year. He's had a, MVP caliber first 3 seasons. Machado, you're right.
I
hasn't
get
all
it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pieces though. The core, the Joe Musgroves, the Blake Snells, the Yu Darvishes. You're
I'm
right.
talking
it's not the
about like
same.
leaders, like guys that you trust wholeheartedly to make sure that clubhouse is locked up.
So do you think it's more about the players than it is about the front office? Because I think he could get the players on board.
I
The
think it's
question is,
both.
can he get the whole organization on board?
I think it's both. I think that there's a problem with both the players and the front office and whoever's in that manager's chair. I don't think it's just one thing. I don't think it's that it's always the manager's fault. Like, it's just not. Look at Gabe Kapler. He went from Philadelphia, where he was not good. That clubhouse reportedly was not good. He left, and they brought in a veteran manager and Joe Girardi. They're dealing with the same issues in Philadelphia. And then Gabe Kapler goes to San Francisco with a clubhouse of Posey, Belt, Crawford, and that seems like a perfect scenario. So, yeah, I am putting this on the players, and I am putting this on the front office, and I am putting this on whoever's the manager of that team. It is a collective effort, and they are failing right now. And so Bochy's probably looking at this like, dude, do I really want to deal with that clubhouse with those guys? From what I've heard, like, no way.
No, that's reasonable. That's fair. I mean, is this a make or break year for AJ? And or would Bochy consider it? Why or why not? Hit your replies in the comments section of our brand new wrap-up show YouTube channel. Again, this reminder, if you want year-round Padres content, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, give us a like on our videos as well, and follow us on social media on Twitter at John Schaefer, at Jim Russell SD. It's going to be a very interesting October. We'll keep you covered right here on the wrap-up show with John Schaefer and Jim Russell.